My name is Claire Donovan, and 3 days before Christmas, I read a text message that wasn't meant for me, and by the time dinner was over, my grandfather had looked my sister dead in the eye and said something none of us will ever unhear. He was standing at the head of the Christmas table, knuckles white on the back of his chair. His voice had that particular quiet that somehow lands harder than shouting. "Lily is my grandchild," he said. The whole table went still. Janet's face drained of color, and there was Lily, my Lily, at the far end, swallowed in that oversized gray hoodie she never took off, her green eyes red-rimmed and fixed on the empty plate in front of her. She wasn't crying anymore. Somehow, that made it worse. 3 days before that moment, I had no idea any of this was coming. The story truly began with a text message I was never supposed to see. 3 days before Christmas, a single screenshot landed on my phone, not meant for me, and in its first 11 words, it branded my daughter, Lily, as an outsider, demolishing everything I thought I knew about my family. It was a family group chat I'd never been added to. Someone screenshotted it, sending it to the wrong person. To me, the one it was designed to leave out. I read my sister Janet's message once, then again, slowly, as my mind struggled to process it. Lily isn't blood. Just leave her at home, keep things simple. Below that, a string of thumbs-up reactions and a single "makes sense" from my cousin Derek. No pushback, not one word of it. I was still holding my phone when Lily came padding down the hallway in her socks, both arms wrapped around a little red velvet dress, her green eyes absolutely lit up. I looked at her face, then at my phone. Two realities that couldn't coexist, yet here they were, 3 feet apart. I walked out the back door into the cold and stood alone in the dark driveway. The anger didn't hit all at once. It rose slowly, like heat climbing from my chest, past my patience, past my grace, all the way up into something harder, quieter, and completely decided. I had spent 6 years making sure Lily never once felt like she had to earn her place in this family. 6 years. And Janet had erased it in 11 words. I hadn't said a word to Janet. I hadn't said a word to Lily, but I already knew what I was going to do. The only question was how many of them I was willing to burn to keep one little girl from ever feeling like an afterthought. I went back inside. Lily was still in the hallway, turning slow circles in her dress, watching the hem flare out around her knees. She looked up, and her whole face was just open, waiting, trusting me as she had since the very first day, before she had any reason. She asked. I looked at my daughter, and I felt the decision lock into place like a bolt sliding home. Just fancy enough, I said. Now go get your coat. The words hit me like a physical blow, stripping away every shred of calm I'd planned for this call. I hadn't even gotten a single sentence out. I was cutting Janet off. Now, completely. Her full statement echoed. Look, I know you adopted her and all that, but that doesn't mean the whole family has to treat her the same as the other kids. She's not blood, Claire. even, unbothered, like she was explaining a seating chart, not talking about my daughter. I was still standing in the kitchen doorway, my mouth open, when I heard the small sound behind me. I turned. Lily was standing in the hallway, still damp from the bath, her gray hoodie already pulled back on, the zipper crooked. She looked at me very carefully. I didn't answer right away. I crossed the hallway in 3 steps and pulled her against me. She didn't cry. She just pressed her face into my shoulder and held very still, the way she always did when she was trying not to need too much. "You're going somewhere better," I said into her hair. I didn't know yet what that meant. I just knew I had to mean it. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of her bed for a long time. Her gray hoodie was folded on the chair. The red velvet dress was hanging on the back of her door, not crumpled on the floor the way I'd feared, but hung up carefully, like she hadn't given up on it yet. I stared at that dress for a long time. Then I picked up my phone. I scrolled past the group chat, past the texts I hadn't answered, and stopped at my father's name. We hadn't spoken properly in months. I didn't even know what I was asking for. I just typed and hit send. The reply came back in under a minute. 4 words I never expected and hadn't realized until that moment I needed more than anything. My father sent 5 words at 11:47 that night, and I had no idea if they were going to save us or shatter everything. Bring Lily. No explanation. No strategy. No warning. I stared at those 5 words until the screen went dark. I didn't sleep. I kept running the scenarios. What Janet might say, what my father might do, where it could go wrong. By morning, I had 17 versions of disaster, and none of them felt unlikely. The next afternoon, Lily stood in front of her closet for a long moment, then pulled out the gray hoodie and the faded jeans, not the red velvet dress. I didn't say a word. I just helped her with the zipper. I said, "Then we leave." She nodded and looked out the window. That was all. When we walked through my parents' front door, Janet froze at the far end of the table. Her eyes went straight to Lily, then to me, and something behind them turned to stone. She started with, "I already said," and then my father stood up, slowly. No raised voice. Just a man rising to his full height in complete silence. He looked directly at Janet and said, "Lily is my grandchild." His voice trembled once, just once, but it never broke. Whatever Janet had rehearsed, whatever certainty she had walked in with, he hadn't argued it. He had simply made it irrelevant. Janet's mouth opened, closed. She looked at my mother, who had been quiet the entire time, and my mother looked back at her with an expression I had never seen before. Not unkind, but finished, like a door that had been gently, permanently shut. The table went silent, and under the tablecloth, Lily's small hand found mine and held on like she wasn't planning to let go. I glanced down at her. She wasn't looking at Janet. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at my father. And then I saw it, the way her grip tightened, the way her chin lifted just slightly, and I understood. She wasn't holding my hand because she was afraid. She was holding it because she had already decided she could handle whatever came next. On the drive home, she didn't say much. "Yeah," I said. She didn't say anything else. Neither did I. It was enough. After 3 days of silence, my daughter smiled for the first time, and it wasn't because of me. It was my father who did it. The man I had been so certain would make everything worse. He lowered himself slowly into the chair beside Lily, right there beneath the Christmas tree, the way a person sits when they mean to stay. He leaned in close, squinting at her face with great seriousness, the way he used to do with me when I was small. Then he tapped the tip of her nose gently and said, "You know what those are? Angel kisses." Lily blinked at him. Then she smiled. A real one, crooked and sudden and completely unguarded. I stood in the doorway and could not move. The corner where she had sat all evening, dim and cut off from everything around her, was now filled with warm golden light from the tree. She was leaning her shoulder into my father's arm. And then, without thinking, she reached up and touched her own cheek, not to hide the freckles, just to feel them there. I had never seen her do that before, not once. I slipped out the side door into the cold, not because I was angry, not this time. I pressed my back against the wall and let myself cry, the kind that only comes when the thing you were most afraid of turns out to be the thing that saves you. I had told her the right things. I had believed the right things. But I had not been able to make her believe them about herself. Not in 3 days. Not in all the nights before that. He did it in 10 seconds. With 4 words and 1 tap of his finger. And standing there in the dark, I finally understood something my father had never said aloud, something he had only ever shown me. On 100 ordinary evenings, I had been too busy resenting to notice. He had stayed, not because blood required it, not because anything asked it of him, just because that is what staying looks like when you mean it.